Welcome back, fellow armchair generals. This is Gamer 1745 here with my continuing playthrough of Hearts of Iron 3 with Black Ice 8 and Third Reich events. Let's get this rolling. Taken Britain. We're occupied it fairly well. We're shifting over massive amounts of troops. We're gonna sort of do what the Americans did to Britain, just occupy it with so many troops it'll sink. No, I know islands don't sink. Few U.S. or one or more U.S. senators think that, but tremendous firepower. Okay. Think that you can tip an island over. And yes, one U.S. senator and all. Thought you could do that by his offhand statements. So what we are doing here is... Nope, they're not all there yet. Okay. I don't want to get... Well, let's just do it this way. Nope, that's too many. Maybe they all thought they needed to be on the same boat, as it were. It is, this is just a transport them. It's fairly safe. You're going without escorts in time of war. In reality, it would be nasty if a few submarines were lurking off there, but there's enough air patrol and other things. A lot of mud begins to clear. Snap freezes. Okay, well. Heavy bomber ground crew. Well, we're going to let that go for the fun of it. Forward air controllers. Switch this over to tactical air command. Thinking of tactical air. Yeah, that's... No, I want a longer range. There we go. Those has twin engine fighters as escorts. Good, we're taking on this militia unit here. Ireland, our good friends the Irish, yes, we'll give you some supplies. Carrier crew training. Now we need to do the important damage control. Keep the carriers operating better, that's important. Jungle unit training. Well, you're probably going to let this go on, yeah. Command control. Radar training. How well did we watch the radar and understand what's going on? I presume there's an understand what's going on element to it. So it's just over to here. We also do anti-aircraft fire control improvements. Keep our carriers, the few that we have, alive. This is a good thing. Okay. Attack ground crew training. That's good enough for now. Let's do airborne assault tactics. We could use that better. Okay, we have well over 1,000 ICs. We've got to be building more than the US. Let's go mechanized infantry. Heavy armor. So we're going a slow division. Go with medium artillery. Let's also go with, because it's rocket artillery. We want half-tracks and engineers. We're going to need a divisional headquarters. We've got one more slot. And then we're going to do reconnaissance. And the cars. Now this should be a pretty good division here. It's going to be hard hitting with that heavy artillery mechanized. We don't so much need, we have pretty good piercing here because of the heavy armor. So we don't need anti-tank or aircraft so much. But I don't think we're going to get bombed that heavily, so there we go. We've got 1,500 manpower, so that's good. We haven't been using it up too much. And obviously this will eat into it a little bit, but yes, no. Are we all here? Yes, okay. Okay, heavy bomber pilot training. I don't let that one go too. Get them up to like 1940 or 41 or something. Okay, we've won here. These guys are also going to rebase over there. That's a fairly good headquarters element. Those are ski troops, so we'll detach those. Those are alright, but very light. A motorized Nord division here, which we'll want to attach to the map. Let's attach them to the Falsamiga division. It's probably too far away, but now we're going to try to invade Greenland here. It's too far away for any air power to parachute in, unfortunately. That's what I was hoping to be able to do. Do we have any of those come up yet? No. But we'll put these out, get them upgrading. No, not Hans Kammler. I don't know why it likes to put him in. Osterkamp. Perfect! You remember him that I talked about earlier on his birthday event. He's a perfect commander. He might, well, I don't know for sure. We should have ship sinker. I would give him that because he was a naval pilot in World War I. Pilot of the Navy, not a pilot of the Army in World War I. Obviously too old really to be a proper fighter pilot for this war. But as a, you know, squadron leader, commander, that kind of, you know, back at the base, we need an occupation force there. Okay, well, let's get these going over here, but let's see. And a police battalion. Defensive general. No, not Luftwaffe. We'll get him. Now, don't we have our ships coming back? Okay. Yeah, come back to here. There we go. That should mean we have the garrison back here. There. Yes, we'll do that. As you know, like I was saying, we are working on avoiding contact with the Navy. Now this is our biggest single battle fleet if they do come out after us. Hoping they won't. How's the Graf Zeppelin there? Now we also have, where are we? There we are. Well, let's actually send them up there and work our way back down south. So the thing I'm wanting right now the most is naval air. We're going to build some naval air. Even though I know we have a bunch in the pipeline. Snowfall increases. Okay, well that does affect me in places like Iceland, I'm sure. Okay, amphibious unit training has advanced. We're going to let that go because we're doing more and more of that. They've lost. Queen Elizabeth has been lost. Okay. Gortz von Berlichen Division. The 17th SS Panzer Grenadier Division. Excellent. Well, you like that. Kampfgruppe Polizei. We like that. Now, are any of those in the production queue, or are they all on the map? No. Gortz von Berlichen. Goods. I don't know. Whatever. There's the Kampfgruppe. Way out here. I'd have the Polizei unit have higher priority so it shows up than the Kampfgruppe, but whatever. No big deal. Now let's see, we're gonna turn that into a cool division. So we've lost a province. Okay. Well, and these guys are gonna support the attack. And so is Han Shuren. So we're gonna need some SS support units. Okay, so it's Kampfgruppe with a main battalion, so as well. Close. How fast is that thing? Now let's look for it this way. It's out there somewhere, I know, but okay, so fairly quick. Some motorized units would be useful. We only need one, but I don't know that we want to do that. Yeah, self-propelled anti-air. And motorcycles would be good enough. But I guess we're going to want to cross rivers, so... see, speed, yeah, we want the armored engineer, so we're going to go with that. Do we have... no, we have a... send it over here to hook up with this division, so we may build another. The old leftover transport from Leibstandart, and it went bye-bye at one time. Well, we've got enough other. We're not going to have a Wehrmacht general in charge of the SS unit. He looks interesting enough, okay. This is one of those paper divisions that Alexei made. He did those from a list in, or at least the list originated in the book Hitler's Samurai, and from reading about it, because I did do some research on it, they were units that like he very rightly points out, were paper divisions. Someone mentioned somewhere that we might make these kind of things. I don't, looking at the list, I don't think they would have made Reich Marshal, the division with the term Reich Marshal on it. Mainly because Himmler and Goering were somewhat serious rivals, and I don't think that would have happened. The Finnish division that this one is based on, yeah, I could see it happening, particularly in a situation like this, in which Finland, Germany is victorious, and there's pressure on, hey, well, okay, Finland's, obviously most of Finland's army, we don't have a good call for expeditionary forces. I wish we could call for them, but since most of the army is staying home, is, hey, let us recruit up an SS division from volunteers of your nation. I could see that in this situation very likely happening, as well as war still goes on, but Germany doing well, or war still goes on with the Soviet Union, but Germany doing well. I could see this division happening. As it happened historically, no, I don't see this division happening at all, because the Finnish government, even if there were enough volunteers to form a unit, the Finnish government did want to more and more withdraw its association from Hitler's Germany. So, under the correct conditions, I think Kalevala would could have happened. A few of the other divisions, from reading about it, either they didn't exist or mistaken identity by some people that were referring to a division in the sort of closing days of Germany, or that they were more Kampfgruppe, that were formed up, and some outsiders, and that some of the units within because when you forming it, as we've seen here, some of the Kampfgruppe type, it was a sort of a very unique within, the U.S. has regimental combat teams, but those are made up 9 out of 10 times or more from units from the same division, that they're just creating a more dynamic, smaller than division size maneuver force. Where the German Kampfgruppe very well could do that, could be all from one division that are specifically set up and designed as a good, coherent, combined arms force to go out there. Other times, they're just, hey, there's a collapse in the front in part of the front, or there's a rising in Slovakia, or just something's happening somewhere, and they create these Kampfgruppe with, oh, here's a Luftwaffe unit, an anti-aircraft unit that has maybe no transport, and here's a like a army truck depot that has trucks. Okay, you hook up with them, and then there's an local SS engineer school. Okay, well, all the students and all the instructors show up at this, and you're the engineering element of this group, and they're, and just piece together within hours, really, just sort of, knowing what's going on in this area, create a Kampfgruppe to go deal with a crisis, a situation. And this is sort of why Black Ice wants to remove these things, because a lot of these were just for an emergency, were used often. They were very imbalanced. Like you may have a mechanized company or battalion because it was traveling through or in the area, paired with a regiment of foot infantry, and obviously they can't move anywhere coherently at the same rate. But it just, everybody that's put together, and the Germans were really good at forming these units as an ad hoc situation. And it wasn't just like, well, of course the U.S. could form something like that if it was having this similar situations. And yes, it could, but Germany had this sort of doctrine of doing this. And it's not like they planned out each and every little Kampfgruppe. Well, what if happens if Warsaw revolts or something like that? What do we do? It's not that even that formalized. It's just sort of the general view that it was something that they would and could do. Now, other Kampfgruppes were longer lasting. I don't know if I can think of a clear one. Not anything like years, but for months, maybe 6-8 months potentially, for a thrust and operation down in the Crimea, or some of the units that were formed up for the Kuban Peninsula in retreat, and some of the other ones that were going for quite a while that went on. It definitely did happen like that for much longer, not just for, because like some of the earlier examples might literally be for less than a week, because they needed it. It happened. Once it was done, it was disbanded. And often the names were created around the commanding officer of the Kampfgruppe. And that's what I think looking at a couple of the paper divisions were just Kampfgruppe with an SS officer, maybe some SS units, but not really a divisional size unit. So I think there is some good stuff there, but then there's also some, I don't know how best to put it, but some marginal stuff. Now, is it bad that he made them? Absolutely not. And as he pointed out, you have the choice not to use them. I'm, as I told him, I'm probably going to be his harshest critic on some of these things, heavily because I know a fair amount about the Waffen-SS and its operations. Is there another garrison division that I want to put on board ship? Sure. And if you're looking for, shall we say, more character to your, instead of just having a generic Waffen-SS division, so you're wanting to expand the number and list of divisions, yeah, it is a lot better than just doing that. That's for sure. Okay. See, naval underway replenishment. Okay, here's one that I did talk about. Oh, Royal Oak is lost. Probably the Japanese. Talked about the first time through when we got this in the segments that I'm throwing away. Okay, naval underway replenishment, and this is a really difficult skill to have for a navy. I'm taking this as not meaning, oh hey, two ships come in the lee of some island here, anchor, and transfer supplies on ship's boats, sort of rowboats or motorboats that are with outboard engines kind of thing, and transfer supplies back and forth. Partially because of the term underway. This is out at sea, whether it's in the Atlantic or in the Mediterranean. Obviously there's less need in the Mediterranean, but it's out at sea. You're transferring supplies from one ship to the other. This is a difficult skill to master, and it's not just a captain or ship driver or whatever you want to call them practicing and knowing the skills. It's a full operational theory as well as a practice that a lot of navies, even to this day, can't do. When you have to be underway. You can't, if you're out in the ocean, you just can't bob there. Like if you're just going to sort of sit still, you've got to be in the lee of the island, like we were saying, whether you're anchored or not. So you have to be underway. So you have to be going forward at some coherent speed. And yes, you can set two ships to go at the same speed forward. But that is not that difficult. But what happens is when you have two ships near each other, you might think with the wake it would push them apart. But actually, when you have two ships near each other, there's a sucking phenomenon that wants to pull both ships together so they collide into each other. And I can't see what my hands are doing, but I'm sort of doing that as I'm looking at. So they get sort of sucked in together. So you've got to keep. So if you steer your ships straight ahead, they will bash into each other. Now, to underway supply, actually the fuel and potentially fresh water and whatever is actually fairly the easier part, with running some hoses and pumping from one ship to the other. Dangerous, of course, if your fuel, and it catches on fire, and especially if you're doing underway replenishment for a carrier's aviation fuel instead of the fuel oil. The aviation fuel is more flammable, so that obviously could be a traumatic effect to the ships involved. But generally speaking, that's the easier. It's the other supplies, which could be something as big and complicated as a torpedo. To underway resupply your torpedoes for your destroyers, or more than likely not so much your ship's artillery, because if you're in that many battles, you're probably going and you're using up your magazine of artillery rounds, probably going back to port. But it's more your food. Torpedoes are something you carry very few of, so that might be something you would want to resupply. And so you obviously, and you've seen it, and you go move men, including casualties, back and forth in the sort of a basket, and the cables that going back and forth. So if you start to move too close together, the basket will dunk into the water, and if your food or your, obviously a torpedo would probably handle it just fine, but people would be dunked into the water, which may not be a good thing, getting the stuff wet. And of course, if your ships do come together and collide, and you can't just necessarily just make a minor correction if you start going too close together. You got to pull out, and if you pull out too hard, you'll part the cables, because the ships are they're big, they're going through the water. Those cables, aren't anchor cable, they're not impervious cable. They'll part, and anything on the cables will fall into the water, and if it's a person, will most likely be lost. So if you start to get too far in, and you start to force So you sort of have to overforce your ships out, but if you keep doing that too much, you'll part the cable because you don't want to have slack in that cable because you want to keep the stuff out of the water. So you have very little maneuver room to do that, and you're moving potentially back and forth, but primarily from one ship to the other, moving multiple supplies across. So this can take hours, and it's difficult ship handling with difficult wind and sea conditions going on. And so this is a drill, a maneuver, and it's not like I say just the guy who's driving the ship, or two guys obviously, one in each ship, handling that well. It's the crews as they put the stuff in, rig it up onto the basket, secure it on, and move it across, and unload it, and then send the basket back. And you just keep doing this type of evolution that you have to have everything running smoothly through the thing, through a safety procedures. And we're not, I presume, talking about a hero cargo ship, if you will, a very well-trained cargo ship, and a very well-trained capital ship, pride of the fleet. We're talking about every ship that's out there. And when you talk about supply transports, they're carrying lots of men that potentially need lots more food. So, because we do have landing craft, LC, transport flotilla here, and other elements that if they're extending their range by underway replenishment, by having presumably fast fleet refueling and cargo carrying, but fast stay up with the fleet, because normally sometimes they do go back and come back and rendezvous with the fleet, but other times they're just simply dedicated ships to carrying supplies, stay with the fleet through the whole operation. You've got to train those crews up. You have to train all of the crews and all of the other ships that are going to get resupplied, so that's down to your destroyers and potentially smaller craft up to all your big craft. So every ship has got to have this training levels. So this is something that very few navies mastered at the time. Very few navies, in my understanding, really have it down good to this day to properly, fully refuel their vessels. I don't know the state of all the NATO navies, how good they're at this. And they may all be good, but get outside of NATO. The modern day Russian fleet, can it underway replenish? Really? I've heard some, that a lot of their ships can't even get out of port because of maintenance problems. I know it's not necessarily the sailors themselves' fault. It's the lack of training that, because it costs to train and it costs to, the spare parts and all of that stuff. And Russia, has economic problems and had a large fleet at the end of the Cold War. So, and I'm not saying there isn't a task force within the Russian Navy today that wouldn't know how to do this on a, not just intellectually know how to do it, but do it, practice it. You got to keep practicing it to keep the skills up. And China's obviously expanding its Navy, but I don't know if they're really good at this Navy-wide. Some Navy like Japan probably is, but this is the South Korean Navy. I think it's much more of a coastal thing, so it wouldn't need to have these skills Navy-wide to do that. So it's a real skill, and I don't know if I would, Germany did some really good stuff, and they did some definitely resupply at sea for some of the submarines and such. One of the reasons I do think their Navy was as good as it was because it was as small as it was. It's one thing to have a fairly small elite force. And I know one of you guys will come out next number of sailors and yada yada. I know all that. But when you compare it to this relative size from the nation, compare it to the Royal Navy, when you compare it to the size of the American Navy, when you compare it to the size of even the Canadian Navy, and particularly numbers of ships. Canadian Navy had a lot of small vessels, and even the French Navy. It really wasn't that large of a navy. So having it done on a smaller navy, it actually would be easier, fewer people to train. But don't know. I would limit it from some nations. But then, of course, players get mad. Well, why can't I have? Well, now that I've defeated Germany and I want to declare, as the Soviet Union, I want to declare war on the Western Allies and then invade the U.S. Why can't I do that? Yeah. Well, yes, if you're going that far fantasy down the road, you should be able to do it. Okay. Well, blame the politicians. Our new synthetic start working good. Nuclear arms race will do not interested because we're already building a factory. No, we don't need this. I don't know that they're going to put it. Good spot. Okay, and what is... Oh, underway replenishment. Yeah, that's too far ahead now. Okay, let's do anti-air. Why are we 41? Why is all of these things under strength? Oh! That would be because of tremendous firepower techniques. I'm presuming here at the moment. Okay. That would make sense as to because they need the greater manpower, and I look and I saw why are all the artillery there. I understand like, oh, one mechanized engineering unit or something isn't fully up to strength for some reason. Okay, I got that, but all the artillery, well, that's because of the tremendous firepower techniques. Okay, I understand that better. Just want to understand things. That's also why my manpower or my officers have taken a hit, because they're officer intensive. Okay, well, what we need to do then is considerably reduce this. And I want more spies because we're doing a bunch of spy operations. Okay, I know we just went massively into the red, but it's for a good reason. Because all of our artillery, wherever it is, okay, well, Argentina. Yes, because we want you to be our friends. Amphibious unit training, command, and control. I think that's going to be a no, just an airborne unit, just because we are so much into the deficit there. We will revisit you when we get out of our deficit. Okay, yes, we will want to rebuild this flotilla. No, we don't need to expand the airbase. And the 712th Infantry Division. Okay, that'll be good. Oh, that's what we also need, the reinforcements, because that's all those manpower needs for our increased. And yeah. Now this unit here now. That one. Flying boats. Let's add another flying boat to that. Oh. 31, 37. Looks like we're actually going to do that correctly in that okay. Together again. No, not Hans Kammler. We'll add. No, there already have too many. Here we go. No, need to drop in the. There we go. Don't know why it really likes Hans Kammler. He's not that good of a commander. Maybe they just think it's... I don't know. The SS trait is good at suppression or something? I don't know. God. Okay, we're... Monsoons begin. Okay, the big wet. Okay, you can come back here. Strategically redeploy you there, get you there quick. Okay, next episode I think we're going to, once we get reorganized better, we're going to drop in on our friends. Okay, detach you. Okay, that'll give us 4 divisions with a reinforced headquarters. Wish I had some artillery with that headquarters. We're going to see about dropping in on them, I think, next episode. Finland, yes, you can have some supplies. Okay, we're going to send you up to here. I've been waiting to get rebase, yeah. How's our invasion going? God, I've been talking and doing other things like that, and could have had us fleet sunk. This is, though I'm coming in with more troops, this is sort of what happened last time when I was playing through here. Is that we have a, yeah, I sort of have a prequel of what's going on. We have a good, favorable rate, but doesn't seem to budge this unit. Airborne unit command and control, we're going to stop that. And Reichsführer SS. I know I evaluated this picture last time, and I'm going to do it again here. I think this is a picture of the from the early days, the SS Vergentrupp. I'm probably butchering that, sorry Germans. As opposed to something from the 16th SS Panzer Grenadier Division. I think by the time we're talking about for the 16th Panzer, the Reich SS, they'd stopped using the swastika decals on the helmets. Generally, but well, yeah, I'm pretty sure they had by this time. I think they were still doing I'm trying to remember the dates. And obviously there's exceptions. Obviously people didn't necessarily go in and either paint over or scrub out their decals, but they all have the swastika decals there on that side, because I believe it's the other side, and also the helmet shape is sort of throwing me a little bit. I think it's an slightly earlier version. Is the other side is the SS. They kept that on there longer. But this guy, if you notice here, he has, unless they did they black out the SS runes, which you could hardly see, but there's no runes there. So I'm not sure, but just the uniform style just makes me think that it's an earlier photo. Could be wrong, but I think it's an earlier photo than for the Reichsführer SS or division. Is that on the map here somewhere? Or is it the production queue? Oh, production queue. Pop these up top. I know I'm picky about some of these things, but it's when it's an area that I know well, that's when I get sort of picky on it. To the mod makers out there, Black Ice Team, Alexi, Revolver Held, you guys are making great mods. You really are. I'm just in some of this stuff is overly picky, and it's one of the just personal things that I do with TRE, and it's and the images that I work with that I work very hard to find an image to go with it. And sometimes I fail. Sometimes I just can't find. Oh good, Afghanistan. Hopefully we can get Afghanistan in the axis. Great, pack concluded. Well, now we have Afghanistan. That really opens up some possibilities. And I say it because I don't know what if I'm ever going to do a second invasion of the Soviet Union with this series or any series, but by having the Afghanistan front here, they're going to have to reposition their forces, whether we keep them out of the war and just hopefully do that, but hopefully that they garrison their borders strongly, or even if we want to bring them into the war and just move in, say even just one corps of good German mountain troops to hold out in some of these mountains here. You could probably, whether you bring in Iran as well or not, you can hold a front down here that would soak up a lot of Soviet energy, and if they don't hold the front, obviously it gives you ability to, to move in and pick up some useful provinces, but it's as much or more just to weaken this front with them having to send troops other places. Okay, well at this point, this happy point of getting another ally, we're going to end this episode. Thanks so much for watching. Thanks so much for liking the videos. I do appreciate that. And please post your comments, because I like this as much as I can to be a conversation, because whether I reference any one of your posts in this dialogue, obviously I'm answering most of your post comments. Answering might not even be necessarily, but I'm just acknowledging your points. It helps me build a picture of who I'm talking to, and it helps me in that way, so I do appreciate that. See you next time.